All right. Well, good morning, guys. How you guys doing this morning? You guys awake? You guys good? Hey, is anyone still in school? Just be honest. Raise your hand. Oh boy. Hey, Lyric, when do you get out of school? When are you done? June 6th? Okay, coming up when you get out. June 14th. I am so What school do you go to? I can write a letter if you want me to. Okay, all right. What school? June 9th at Hale. Okay, wow, wow. What about over here? Anyone else? No? No? No. Yeah? Yeah. Oh, all right, all right. Everyone's like, all right, Titus, whatever. Hey, well, it is so good to be with you guys on this Sunday morning. Like you've heard, this is the last Sunday with our current eighth graders, which is very sad. But I'm really excited to see where you guys go into high school, where the Lord leads you, and all that stuff. And I'm really excited. Next weekend is Upgrade. So if you guys have not signed up for Upgrade already, today is the day to do so. You can also do it later this week, but you should do it today. Unlimited laser tag. It's going to be a lot of fun. Unlimited arcade games. So much pizza you can hurl, but you shouldn't. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're also going to welcome in all the new sixth graders next weekend. It's going to be a blast. But a couple things as we head into this time of teaching. If it's your first time joining us, special welcome to you. We are so excited that you guys are here with us on this Sunday morning. I know some of us are still waking up and some of us would rather still be asleep right now, but I'm excited and grateful that you guys are here. What we're about to do is we're about to head into a time of teaching, which we consider the most important time of the morning. So do me a favor. If you see a message note sheet around you, it looks just like this. If you have them, just kind of wave them up in the air. And then you can wave at me as well if you want. This is a great way to follow along in this time. This is not a test. It's not a quiz. We're not going to grade you on anything. And even if you want to draw like a little picture, feel free to do that. But there's some fill in the blanks on the front and the back so that you can remember some things that we are going to talk about this morning. See, we've been in this series called One More Thing, which we're going to be talking about this morning. But as we head into this time of teaching, I want us just to remember the reason why we have, a time of teaching, why we gather every single Sunday morning, or even Wednesday night, or even Saturday night, if that's you. You see, in Wildlife, we really value the Bible. We value God's word. We believe that God's word is true, and everything in it shows us more about who Jesus is and what he is calling us to do. You see, as middle schoolers, I see middle school as the best type of people of all time. Middle school ministry is a great opportunity for you to come to know who Jesus is and really see the plan he has for your life. So, as we head into this time of teaching, let's just remember why we are here. We want to learn more about Jesus. But if you're here and you're like, I don't care about that, I appreciate your honesty. All I ask is that you just respect this time. Don't be talking to your neighbor. Don't be lighting your chair on fire, anything like that. Don't be on your phone unless it's the Bible app. But even if you need a Bible, we have a Bible in front of you. All right. So as we jump into this time, let's go ahead and pray and we will dive right in. So, Jesus, thank you so much for this morning. We ask that you would just be with us. We invite you into this moment. We invite you into this moment in our lives. Would we understand more of who you are and what you are calling us to? Jesus, we know that your way is always better. And for all of us that are leaders in Wildlife, whether we are an older brother or sister, or maybe we are a leader in one of our schools during the school semester, whatever it is, Jesus, we're so grateful because you are calling us to a higher level of leadership. And it's in your name we all said, amen. So, Wildlife, I want to start this time off with a question. You can answer the question, and if you do so, I will throw some Tootsie Rolls at you, which is a highlight of my job, is to throw candy at you guys. So here's the question. What is the best movie, or what is your favorite movie of all time? We had some people say last night, someone said Interstellar. That's a great movie. But what is your favorite movie? Eighth graders, if you were here last night, quiet down. So let's go right back here. Tell everyone your name loud and proud. Micah, everyone, this is Micah. Let's give it up for Micah. Micah, what? I like the. Yeah. All right, Micah, what's the best movie? Your favorite movie? Toy Story 2. That is a classic. You're not Micah. I'm so sorry. That kind of curved on me. Micah, what is it about Toy Story 2? It's just really funny. That's awesome. That is one of my favorite Toy Story movies as well. Let's go. Let's go right here. So tell everyone your name, loud and proud. Brinley, everyone. This is Brinley. Let's give it up for Brinley. Brinley, what is your favorite movie? Endgame, good. And Spider-Man: No Way Home. Those are also great as well. Since I skipped you, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna skip you again. So no, I'm joking. So tell everyone your name, loud and proud. Adelina. She got offended for a second. What's your favorite movie? Guardian, the first one. That did you see the third one? Oh, all right. Hey, I'm just saying, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. If you love animals, you will hate the villain. Let me just tell you. Let's go with a couple more. Let's go in the white sweater. Tell everyone your name, loud and proud. Audrey, everyone, this is Audrey. Let's give it up for Audrey. Audrey, what is your favorite movie of all time? Lion King. Now I gotta know, Audrey, the original or the live action? The original. Good, good. Yeah, the live action is not live action at all either. It's just still computer generated. All right, let's go with the staff over here. Tell everyone your name. Wow, Jonathan. Everyone, this is Jonathan. Look at Jonathan. He's great. Favorite movie? Princess Bride. That is that's a good the new Little Mermaid. Let's go with a couple more right here. Tell everyone your name. Yeah. Hold on. Shh. Eighth grade. Eighth grade. Shh. Respect this weekend. I don't care what you do in Revolution. All right. I'm joking. All right. Shh. Tell everyone your name. Josiah. Everyone, this is Josiah, the Impossible Shot champion. So what's your favorite movie? Lord of the Rings. Which one, or the whole trilogy? Now the extended cut or the original? Have you seen the extended cut? It's like 4 hours per movie. It's wild. You should do that in your spare time. Hey, let's go with one more. Is there a movie that you just haven't? All right. It's her last Sunday, and then she gets older next weekend. So tell everyone your name. They're very excited that you're answering, by the way. All the people around you are very excited for some reason. She's so excited she's not even looking at me. So tell everyone your name loud and proud. Donna, everyone, this is Donna. Let's give it up for Donna. Donna, what's your favorite movie? Revenge of the Sith. Anakin did not have the high ground. It's very unfortunate. Hey, well, you guys go ahead and put your hands down. I'd have to say Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorite prequel movies. Attack of the Clones is terrible. So is Phantom Menace, except for Darth Maul. He's pretty great. Hey, but if you were to ask me, like, what's my favorite movie of all time, I might have said this before in Wildlife, but my favorite movie of all time is Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire. It came out in 2004, which none of you guys were even a thought in your parents' mind back then, which is so weird. But if you were to ask me, like, I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Not so much lately. Phase 4 has kind of been rough as a Marvel fan, but Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was pretty great. But, like, I'd have to say my top three favorite Marvel movies of the MCU has to be number one, has to be Iron Man, the original Iron Man. Super good movie. If it wasn't for that movie, we wouldn't have the MCU. But then number two would probably have to be Captain America 2, The Winter Soldier. Um, some of the best action in any movie, in my opinion. Super good, a nice spy thriller. But then I'd also have to say Spider-Man: No Way Home. I love that movie. It's a great movie. I may or may not have cried when I saw all three of the Spider-Men on the screen. So good. But one of my favorite movies out of the MCU is a movie called Spider-Man: Homecoming. The very first Spider-Man with Tom Holland. Actually, my wife and I, we actually watched it again last night when we got home from church. And it is such a good movie. Has anyone seen Spider-Man: Homecoming before? All right. Well, hey, so many hands are not up. Do me a favor, sometime today or sometime this week, grab your best friend, grab your mom or dad and watch Spider-Man Homecoming. It's such a good movie. But there's this one part in this movie, which I guess is kind of a spoiler. But there's this one part throughout the entire movie, Spider-Man or Peter Parker really wants to become like Iron Man. He wants to become like Tony Stark. And I think for a lot of us, we want to become like our heroes. We want to become like the people we look up to, right? And throughout this entire movie, Peter Parker, Spider Man, wants to be like Iron Man because Iron Man is a hero. So we see throughout the entire movie, Peter Parker tries to be the best hero he can be. He saves an old lady and she buys him a churro, and all these epic things happen. But later throughout the movie, about halfway through the movie, we see that Spider Man comes in contact with this giant like ship, this giant ferry. And he's trying to save all these people, and he ends up having the bad guys like cut the giant ship in half, and he's trying to save everyone, and it just goes terribly, terribly wrong. And what we see is Iron Man comes in and he saves the day, and Iron Man gets really upset with Spider Man because Spider Man put a lot of people's lives at risk. So, without me telling more, let's check out what happens next in this clip.
Previously on Peter Screws the Pooch, I tell you to stay away from this. Instead, you hacked a multi-million-dollar suit so you could sneak around behind my back doing the one thing I told you not to do.
Is everyone okay?
No thanks to you.
No thanks to me? Those weapons were out there and I tried to tell you about it, but you didn't listen. None of this would have happened if you had just listened to me. If you even cared, you'd actually be here.
I did listen, kid. Who do you think called the FBI, huh? Do you know that I was the only one who believed in you? Everyone else said I was crazy to recruit a 14-year-old kid.
I'm 15.
No, this is where you zip it, all right? The adult is talking. What if somebody had died tonight? Different story, right? Because that's on you. And if you died, I think that's on me. I don't need that on my conscience.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Sorry doesn't
I
matter.
understand. I just wanted to be like you.
And I wanted you to be better.
All right, so what we see in that clip, right, that the reason why Spider-Man did what he did, tried to save all these people, but in doing so, it got so much worse, and Iron Man had to come and save the day. What we see here is that Spider-Man, ultimately, he wanted to be like Iron Man. He wanted to be like Tony Stark. But what we see is Tony Stark says, like, hey, actually, I want you to be better than me. I want you to be a better hero than I am. And this morning, we're going to be continuing in this series, One More Thing. We're actually going to be wrapping up this series, and we're going to be talking about this idea of being the example. You see, everyone in this room is a leader. Everyone in this room is a leader. Whether you are an older brother or sister, you help lead people maybe in your life group. People look up to you. Everyone in this room is a leader in some way or another. And the reason we're talking about one more thing is that years ago, Apple, the company Apple, had this thing called One More Thing. And actually, the CEO of Apple at the time, Steve Jobs, unfortunately, he passed away a few years back. But he actually had this thing called One More Thing. And every time they would have this press conference where they would release all the new iPhones and iPads and all the new iOS stuff and all the new things coming out, he would always leave the biggest reveal to the very end. And this is usually the biggest reveal of like, here's the newest iPhone and it has like a slightly better battery. And everyone goes, oh my gosh, here's $1,000. All the crazy stuff, right? But the one more thing was Steve Jobs, Apple's way of sharing, here is the one big thing that you should focus on. Here is the one big thing that matters the most. In the Apostle Paul in the Bible, in the New Testament, he writes to one of his sons in the faith known as Timothy. And Paul writes one of his last letters before he actually dies and kind of gives all of the wisdom to Timothy before Paul passes away. So First and Second Timothy, these two letters, these two books that the Apostle Paul writes to Timothy, is kind of a way of like, hey, here is all the knowledge I want you to know as you are leading and shepherding this church. See, what you need to know is that Paul was writing to Timothy because he sent Timothy to this church to help them out. It was actually a church in a city known as Ephesus. Can someone say Ephesus? Ephesus. And he sent Timothy there because all the church in Ephesus, there were leaders in this church that were leading people away from Jesus because they had an incorrect view of who Jesus is. And I think for some of us, we sometimes have an incorrect view of who Jesus is because sometimes we look to so many different things that are not of the Bible. So, for example, we look to things on social media like TikTok pastors, which that's a weird thing that's a thing. But sometimes we have an incorrect view of who Jesus is. And in the same way, leaders in this church in Ephesus were leading people away from Jesus. And what Paul wanted to do is he sent Timothy to this church to correct everyone's view on who the actual Jesus is, the Jesus of the Bible. And in the same way, for us in wildlife, we need to have a correct view of who Jesus is, but also we need to understand what it looks like to be the example to everyone else around us. So this letter was designed to kind of restore this church and kind of give good instruction on how to be a great follower of Jesus. So if you guys have your note sheet with you, we actually have the verses on the note sheet. So we're just going to be looking at one verse this morning. We're going to be in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12. And the reason I'm going to have you just kind of look at this note sheet, because all the verses on the front and on the back are the verses we need for this morning, all right? We're only going to be going through one main verse, and it's in a different translation from our NIV Bibles, which is the Bibles we have in front of you. We're actually going to be looking at a different translation known as the NLT, or the New Living Translation. It all says the same stuff, just in a different way, and I like how it's worded in this translation. So if you guys have your note sheet, pull those out and just follow along with me. Now, I want to encourage you sometime today or sometime this week, read verses 11 through 16 just on your own, or you can have it read it to you. But we're going to be looking at verse 12. So this is verse 12. So Paul writes to Timothy saying, "Don't let anyone think less of you because you are young." If you have a pen with you that's not exploding, um, underline that phrase, "Don't let anyone think less of you because you are young." Now, for some of us in this room, maybe you are the youngest child in your family. And maybe for you, you sometimes think that people think less of you or think of you as less than because of your age. What Paul is telling Timothy, who is a young pastor, who is leading older people back to Jesus, Paul is saying, hey, Timothy, don't let anyone think less of you, or don't let anyone look down on you because you are younger than the people around you. And the reason why we're in this series is for all the eighth graders. You guys are going to high school next weekend, and you guys are going to be the youngest class, the youngest people in Revolution. I know right now you're the oldest one. You're like, yeah, I'm the oldest. Next week, you're going to drop right down to the bottom of the food chain. But next weekend, you guys are going to feel probably like the youngest people in Revolution. For all the sixth graders right now, you are the youngest as of right now in Wildlife. The seventh graders, you are the middle child of Wildlife. But all of us, sometimes in our lives, feel like we are the youngest. But what Paul is saying, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. And then he goes on to say, be an example. Underline that phrase, be an example to all believers, anyone who is a Christian, in what you say, in the way you live, in your love, in your faith, and in your purity. So all of these categories are so important. Paul is saying, don't let anyone think less of you because you're young. And that is a powerful truth, that you don't have less value because of your age. You don't have less value because of how young you are or how old you are. You see, everyone has so much value in Jesus's eyes. But what Paul says too is, hey, because you're young, you should then be the example to everyone else around you, especially those that are older than you. Let me tell you something. Just because someone is older doesn't mean they're wise. Just because someone's older than you doesn't mean they have wisdom. It's important to understand that just because you're young doesn't mean you aren't less than. It doesn't mean you don't have a lot of wisdom or knowledge. Like, I've encountered a lot of you guys through life group, through conversation. A lot of you are really wise, especially for your age. So what I want to do with the rest of our time is I want to just highlight 5 different areas of how we can all be the example, especially to those that are older than us and to those that are followers of Jesus. So if you have your note sheet on the bottom, we have 5 ways to be the example. Here is your first fill-in. Grab a pen with you. Your first fill-in is this. Number 1, speech. Speech. How you talk to others. The way you talk to others is a way to be the example of a great leader. For example, how you talk to your parents, how you talk to your brother or sister. Do you naturally just start gossiping about people, tearing people down, maybe because it makes yourself feel better? Do you immediately start talking back to your parents when they ask you to take out the trash or to do the dishes or to watch your brother or sister or whatever? Do you naturally just have a hard time with keeping your words clean or pure? Like, do you have a hard time cussing or cursing because maybe those friends at school, they do it all the time and you just want to fit in? You see, it says this in James 3, 9 through 11, right below this point on your note sheet. Just follow along with me. It says, sometimes talking about your mouth, your tongue, the words that you say, sometimes it praises our Lord and Father, and sometimes it curses those who have been made in the image of God. If you have a pen with you, underline that phrase, image of God. And so blessing and cursing come pouring out of the same mouth. Surely, my brothers and sisters, this is not right. So you see, it is so important. A way to be the example is through our words, the way we talk to other people. Are you quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry? Or the moment you have a thought, you just have to say it out loud, and maybe that just hurts someone's feelings, but you just had to say it. Are you slow to speak? Do you think about what you say? Is it wise? Number 2, behavior, how you live your life. Your behavior, how you live your life. Are you doing what everyone else is doing? Again, for example, maybe you have some friends in school this past semester, and you know they just normally cheat on a test. And they've kind of given you an opportunity maybe to see some of the answers or kind of cheat off the person next to you. Your behavior, how you live your life, is an example of what it means to follow Jesus. So if you're doing these things that that are not right, like cheating or throwing paper at someone during a wildlife message, behavior, how you live your life, is based on being the example. It says this in Romans 12:2. Get on your note sheet. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. You see, a lot of us can easily act like everyone else around us, especially those that are not a Christian. Again, it doesn't mean that we are better than everyone else around us, right? And we're like, haha, I'm better than you. No, no, no. It means that Jesus calls us to a different way to live, and that way is usually the opposite of how everyone else lives around us, especially those that maybe cheat on a math test, those that cuss or talk back to their parents, right? We are supposed to be different and to stand out from everyone else around us. Leads to our third point, love. How you then care for others. How you care for others. I think we have that on the screen. Unless the computer crashed, that's a possibility. We never know. But number three, love how you care for others. You know, caring for others, caring for people, doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to like go to Harvard or go to college to figure out, man, how do I care for people, right? No, it's very simple. We care for people just how Jesus cared for people, right? Jesus always put other people before himself. You know, he died so that everyone could be in a relationship with him if they put their faith and trust in Jesus. But caring for people can be simply holding the door open for your parents. Caring for people could be simply just doing the dishes for your parents without them asking you. Caring for people is giving the last slice of pizza to your younger brother, even though you want it way more. Caring for people can be simple. Caring for someone can be inviting someone to wildlife that normally doesn't go to church. You see, it says this in Philippians 2, 3 through 4 on your note sheet. It says, don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Don't look out only for your own interest, but take an interest in others too. So caring for others is putting their needs before your own, which leads us to number 4, faith, how you put your trust in Jesus. Now, for some of us that went to summer camp last year, we talked about faith. We talked about owning our faith and putting our faith only in Jesus. And we don't have time to get into all of what we talked about at camp, but last year we talked about how faith is ultimately putting your trust in Jesus because Jesus has proven himself time and time again. You see, this idea that a lot of people have, this idea of faith is like, you must, have a leap of faith. That doesn't make any sense. We can only put our faith in Jesus because Jesus has proven himself time and time again. He is who he says he is, and he is someone that will always keep his word, keep his promises. So you can trust in Jesus. Even when it doesn't make sense, even when it seems a little bit scary, we can put our faith in Jesus because he is trustworthy. Which leads to our fifth and final point, purity, how you pursue Christ. How you pursue Jesus as a way to be the example. You see, we talked about last week when we started this series, and we talked about training for godliness. And we talked about training is awesome. Physical training is great, but training for godliness to be more like Jesus by having certain habits in our lives is always better than anything else. So creating habits, pursuing holiness, being set apart from everyone else, getting rid of the things in your life that are not like Jesus. For a lot of us, maybe you already have a time with Jesus. You spend time with Jesus every single day. Maybe it's for 10 minutes. Maybe you just read the verse of the day and you just ponder on it. You think about it. Or maybe you have a journal and you just pray to God by writing out your prayers, whatever it looks like. Those are great ways. Or maybe it's a Bible reading plan on the YouVersion app. Whatever way that looks like, that's awesome. But maybe for some of us in this room, we don't have a consistent way to be with Jesus. We think sometimes, I don't want to read. Reading's hard. It's annoying or whatever. Or we think we're not going to get anything out of it. Creating habits in our lives are a great way to spend time with Jesus. Now, for example, I recently just been convicted of this myself, that I used to do this thing called no Bible, no breakfast, which means if I didn't spend time with Jesus in the morning, I just didn't get breakfast that morning. And sometimes it would be a bummer because I love cereal. I love a good Pop-Tart, right? But for me, it's an important thing to understand, to remind myself that Jesus is a priority in my life, that I need to make room for him, even if that means, oh man, I didn't get breakfast that morning. So maybe for you, you need to figure out to create a habit in your life. And like Jonathan said last week, it takes about 2 months, 3 months, right, to create a habit for it to actually start applying regularly into your life. So if you're like, man, I'm trying to create this habit, but it's been like 2 hours and it's just not working. It's going to take more time than that. Maybe you have your life group leader keep you accountable. Maybe you have a post-it note wherever you go to spend time with Jesus, just reminders throughout the day to create a habit in your life to pursue Jesus. So as the band comes, oh wait, one more thing. So it says this in 1 Timothy 4:8. It says physical training is good, but training for godliness is much better, promising benefits in this life and in the life to come. Now, as the band comes out, I want to leave us with one action step as we end this time together, as we end this series for all the eighth graders, as this is your last wildlife service. Here is the action step. Which area do you need to work on being the example? Out of these 5 areas we talked about, which area for you you're realizing right now, man, I need to work more on pursuing Jesus. I need to work on my one-on-one time with Jesus. Or maybe for you, I need to focus on the words that I say. I need to work on my tone, my sarcasm, anything in your life regarding to your words. Or maybe for you, you need to start figuring out how you can better care for other people. Again, caring for people can be simple, it doesn't have to be complicated. But which area out of these 5 you're realizing right now, man, this one for sure, or these 3, or actually all 5. For me, it probably have to be all 5. Like I have not mastered all of these areas. But if you're here this morning, you're like, I don't know. I would encourage you to go before Jesus in this next song of worship and just ask him. Ask Jesus, which area out of these 5 do I need to work on? Not that you're going to be perfect, but that you need to work on so that you could be the example. Because all the 8th graders, you're going to high school next weekend. For you guys, you're going to be, again, the youngest in Revolution, but you can still set the example for the sophomores, juniors, and seniors. For all the 6th and 7th graders right now, this is your last weekend as a 6th and 7th grader. Good job, you made it. But next weekend, we have all the new 6th graders coming up. How cool would it be that you then set the example of what it looks like to worship? How cool would it look like that if you set the tone in wildlife, that you show what it looks like to take notes during a message? Not that you're perfect at it, but you are focusing in this time. So which area do you need to work on to be the example in? Because you may or may not know this, or may not believe this, but people look up to you, especially people younger than you. So how are you going to be the example in these 5 areas this week, this next semester, this summer, this next year? And if you have no idea, in this next song of worship, just go before Jesus and just ask him for help. It could be simple. Jesus, would you help me? I don't know which area I need to work on. Amen. So I'm going to invite you guys to stand on up, and we're going to go in this last song of worship. And this song is called Christ Be Magnified. And it's talking about this idea that we just kind of learned together, that you guys are to be the example to everyone else around you. That when people see you, they ultimately will see Jesus. So let's go ahead and pray, and we'll jump right in. So Jesus, thank you so much for this time. We ask that you would just help us. Would you help us be the example, especially for all the current 6th and 7th graders, as the new 6th graders come up next weekend? Would you help us be the example, set the tone for wildlife? For all the 8th graders in this room, would you help them be the example to all the older grades in Revolution next weekend? So we love you, we thank you, and it's in your name, amen.